What is going on, ladies and gents? Welcome to Collectors Gone Digital. My name is Josh, and on today's episode, we're going to be covering sports. So with the recent boxing announcement and the upcoming drop, I want to talk about those things, but I also want to talk about an angle in sports that I think VeVe can be extremely successful in. Now, before we get started, just a little announcement for you guys. This upcoming Friday, 𝗘𝗿𝗏𝗍𝗍, 𝗕𝗿𝗏𝗍, and I are all going to be interviewing Will from Cryptoys. So we have a little roundtable discussion of our own going on. But if you guys don't follow me on X, you can do so using the link in the description. I will be posting more info over there. And if you're interested, make sure to tune in on Friday. Without further ado, let's get into the episode. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Alright, so first things first, let's talk about this boxing sponsorship. And my lord, do I think this was a good move on VeVe's part. I think the market potential here is huge, and I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. But Joseph Parker from New Zealand was the fighter that they chose to sponsor. And thank goodness they chose him, because he won the fight. Now here's a little summary of the event. For those who didn't watch the fight, Zhang, his opponent, actually knocked him down twice. Once in the third and once in the eighth. Despite getting knocked down twice, he actually got back up. He doubled up Zhang in power punches. He landed 79 as opposed to Zhang, who landed 40. And then Parker averaged 22 punches thrown per round over rounds 1 to 6, while Zhang averaged 26. Now the fight ended up going to decision, so there was no knockout. But when it came down to it, Parker's arm was the one that got raised, so he ended up taking the title. And as a result, now he is the heavyweight champ. Now, as you guys can see on the right-hand side there, VeVe's logo was seen on his shorts, as well as his jacket when he walked in. I gotta say, I kind of expected that. I feel like a lot of people did. But I did not expect the logo to be as big and as prominent as it was. I mean, look at that bad boy. It stands right out. I can't even see some of the other ones. Now, in a WebV space this past weekend, I believe somebody said that David was seen ringside, but he was definitely at the event. We actually saw some photos taken with him and some fighters there. Manny Pacquiao was one of them. And all in all, I think this was a fantastic move on VeVe's part. They got to sponsor a local athlete. The athlete won. That's a big thing too. And then the athlete's also tied to a lot of bigger names. And this is just one athlete. So extrapolate that across, I don't know, like another 20, 30 athletes. A lot of doors can open here. Now, speaking of local athlete, who exactly is Joseph Parker? So as a result of the other night, he does now hold the heavyweight title of the world. That's for the WBO. So there are going to be different circuits. He actually won another heavyweight title with the same organization back on December 10th of 2016. That victory actually made him the first New Zealand-born boxer to hold a major world heavyweight title. And then 6 years prior to that, he represented New Zealand in the Commonwealth Games in Delhi, India. He actually competed in the super heavyweight division, and he reached the quarterfinals. So we knew sports were coming to VeVe. We have for a little while now, right? David's been teasing it. Boxing, in my opinion, is a fantastic start. It's a fantastic choice. But in terms of some other sports, here's where I see lots of potential. So of course, soccer or football, whatever you prefer. But that's going to be the biggest sport in the world. Formula One, I think, is also a fantastic option. We already talked about how these sponsorships can open doors. Formula One has a lot of big name companies involved in sponsoring that sport. Not to mention the automotive companies. These sponsorships are a great way for VeVe to work smarter, not harder. So by getting their foot in the door with certain IP or involved in certain spaces, that can open the door to additional partnerships. I used the example over the weekend of Lamborghini. This hasn't been confirmed by VeVe, of course, but Lamborghini's in the same auto group as Audi and Bentley. Audi's already been seen inside 𝗘𝗵𝗏. They did a partnership collab with them. And then Bentley unveiled their GT concept car inside 𝗘𝗵𝗏 as well. So you acquire a license like Lamborghini, who can open the doors to other car companies in the same auto group, examples like Audi and Bentley, who are already seen using the same tech. This is where that waterfall effect can really start to take place. You sign one company and it trickles down to another and another and another and another, and it just keeps going. Now, when most people think of sports, they think of the, well, physical activities, right? But a new industry has been emerging over the years, and my goodness, is it massive. I'm talking esports. So I have a full slide dedicated to this. I do want to get more into it in just one moment here, but before I do, I've seen a comment brought up by the community over the years talking about the football Super Bowl. And I want to speak on this for a sec. So the comments made are often along the lines of, if VeVe ran an ad during the Super Bowl, we're going to the moon. I'm not entirely convinced that that would be a good move, and especially right now for the business. Keep in mind, guys, I'm some random guy sitting behind my computer right now posting a video to YouTube, so I could be completely wrong here. But I feel like the millions of dollars that they would have to spend to run that ad just would not convert right now. One, the sentiment towards NFTs is quite poor still, and that's of the people who know about NFTs, right? If you walk out onto your street and ask somebody walking their dog what a digital collectible was or an NFT, 99 times out of 100, they're not going to know what you're talking about still. Now, of course, you have to promote your stuff in order for more people to become aware of you and learn more about your product. But the way advertising works isn't just, hey, you run an ad and all of a sudden a bunch of people convert into paying customers. It doesn't work that way at all. It's a multi-step process. So a business should never expect a consumer to become a customer the first time they find out about them. It's often like the 5th, the 6th, the 20th time they've seen them. And that's another thing about these DCon and New York Comic Con events. I got a comment on, I can't remember if it was a tweet or a YouTube comment, but somebody talked to me about how, oh, there's hundreds of thousands of people that have gone to DCon, New York Comic Con, and then it was some other event. Why haven't we had hundreds of thousands of more people on the app? When you have hundreds of thousands of people going to these events, a percentage of those people, first off, only see the VeVe booth. A percentage of those people check it out. And then a percentage of those people who check it out actually download the app. And the numbers keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller. The main benefits of VeVe being at those events is, one, for the community to get together. But then two, it's about drilling the VeVe brand name into people's heads. So that when they come back next year and they see the VeVe booth, they go, oh yeah, that's VeVe. I saw them last year. And then that person who never signed up last year signs up this year. Again, it's a process. So going back to the Super Bowl, you pay $6 million to run an ad for 10 seconds. I'm not denying the fact that some people are going to sign up. But is it worth the amount of money that they would spend to run that ad versus the amount of people that would sign up? In my opinion, no. Now let's talk about esports, because guys, for anyone who is not familiar with esports, I highly recommend checking out some videos after you watch this one. Don't click off. But what's so fascinating to me about a space like this is it's still so underground, but the amount of money involved here is insane. So I think a sponsorship in the esports space could be extremely beneficial for VeVe. And guys, it's a whole other ball game over in Asia as well. So we have esports tournaments right now that are taking over former Olympic stadiums. They're taking over those types of venues because of how fast the industry has grown. You have prize money that can be in the millions at a single event. And we're talking 14, 16-year-olds who are winning these events. So remember those days of playing a video game and your mom comes down and yells at you and be like, hey, you know, go outside, focus on your future, do something like that. Well, you have 14-year-olds making $3 million from playing Fortnite. It's where the world is heading, and it's comprised of a young audience who's propelling that adoption forward. So if we think about the types of people that VeVe should want to target, collectors, of course, but then also people who know nothing but the digital side. And what I mean by this is it's a generational thing. So older generations are never going to understand some of this stuff. And I'm just speaking generally. I don't mean literally. But older generations are never going to understand this stuff because they never grew up with it, nor do you often see them putting in the time to understand it. They're past it. They don't care. While younger generations, it's all they know. So as we move through these generations, adoption for this type of stuff is just going to go through the roof. What's also interesting about this topic is VeVe has technically already kind of done or gotten themselves involved in this side, right? We have seen them sponsor a gaming tournament. Now, how big that event was, I have no idea. It's definitely a great start. But we're also talking about sponsoring an event where the audience just understands what you're offering. At least more so than the general fan watching a soccer game. The people sitting and watching and actually attending those esports events are hardcore gaming fans. These are people who have hopped into CSGO and bought a skin for $2,000. So the learning curve to understand a VeVe digital collectible for someone like that is much smaller than somebody who's older and never got involved with social media, for example. You have stage setups and lighting effects that, I mean, in some respects are better than high-level concerts. And the funniest thing about this too is you have a team of like 6 people who are so used to just grinding out a game for 14 hours a day has a very small social life, if any at all, and then they walk out onto a stage with thousands of people cheering at them like they're gods, with this insane production setup and commentators and fire shooting up there and sparkles dropping down here. It really is fascinating to see how fast this sport is growing. And again, they're selling out Olympic-sized venues. Now, I want to talk a little bit about utility here, because I think there's some interesting things that VeVe can do here. We already got tickets on the platform to movies, 007 James Bond. Drop tickets on the platform to the actual events. I bet you a bunch of people would have bought tickets to that boxing event that just happened with Parker. And I know we're talking about now collaborating with companies like DAZN, or those involved with actually running the event. But we're eventually going to get to a point where you walk into some of these events, hold up your phone and show them a 3D digital collectible of a ticket spinning. And it's a ticket from VeVe, for example. And they would immediately know it's authentic, right? One of, 10,000 or whatever minted, and then they can go onto the blockchain and verify it. Tickets to private practice sessions, right? If we're still talking about boxing here, there are training sessions that fighters will host to build awareness for their fight. And not long ago, actually, there was an Irish fighter that did this in a local bar. Cleared some chairs in a section by the windows, and people walking by could see him boxing, and everybody inside the pub was filming, grabbing beers, having a great old time. So now that would be something a little bit more open to the public, but for something that's more private or exclusive, you can drop a collectible on VeVe that grants you access to that session. And then we're also just speaking from the perspective of watching the fighter, but access to private training sessions for yourself is another option. I think there's also massive potential with signed phygital merchandise. I know VeVe's dropping his gloves with his signature on it, but imagine if one of those holders had the chance of winning his actual gloves with his signature on those as well, and then they compare the two. And shout out to Mr. 𝗘𝗵𝗆, because I saw him give an offer to Parker for the clothing that he was wearing when he walked out to the fight. So hats off to you, man, because that was a smart move. That right there, though, the perfect example. We have an active community member who already wants the merch. Next up, I think the marketing potential with sports influencers is awesome for VeVe as well. I got Mr. Ryan Garcia on the right-hand side there because he's good with all the social media drama. If you know, you know. But promote a sports collectible via an influencer with a following in that space. Having worked with lots of social media myself, it is one of the better ways to increase exposure fast. There's also a certain level of brand affiliation or association involved here. So when you collaborate with sports influencers, it would allow the brand to associate themselves with the value, ethos, and lifestyle of the sports industry. Right now, when you think of VeVe, you think of collectibles and comics. When they have a bunch more sports collectibles on the platform, you're going to think collectibles, comics, and sports. And same with music. So this affiliation can help enhance brand perception and establish a positive brand image among consumers. Another example is the photo that David took with Pacquiao. Whether there's anything happening there or not, it creates a good look, and a lot of people are posting positive things on X as a result of that. Next up, I want to talk about digitizing equipment. So sports equipment such as basketballs, football helmets, baseball bats, and golf clubs can all be replicated in a digital format. And just look at what a company like 𝗙𝗵𝗍 is doing with the amount of detail in some of their pieces when it comes down to, the brush strokes and stuff like that. You can provide detailed textures and designs on this equipment to make it as authentic as possible. It also allows you to collect items that you cannot collect in a physical format. So for example, on the right-hand side, I have an F1 steering wheel. I think that's a gaming one, but big difference. But imagine collecting the steering wheel to the car of your favorite driver in F1. That would be amazing. It also allows multiple people to collect the same thing. So in this case, with a steering wheel, there would only be one. But if you drop it on VeVe, you can drop a digital replica of thousands. So I think there's so much potential here. Comment down below, guys, what you think would be awesome to replicate in a digital format. Let's see how creative people can get here. Now we talked about equipment, but think about the stadiums themselves. So replicate a virtual version of famous sports stadiums and arenas. Those who collect them can then explore and interact with iconic venues from around the world. And I'll tell you guys, anyone who isn't involved in the sports side, this is a big thing. Now beyond just looking at the collectible in AR, they could also take it a step further with interactive features, right? You can implement those within various elements at the venue. And then if you want to go even further than that, use the stadiums as dynamic hubs for virtual events and entertainment. So we talked about concerts. We also saw Toy Story do that football game where their characters were moving based off the positions of the players in real time. We've already seen companies sell plots of land. We know VeVe wants to do this in the future, but they also offer default structures for building inside the VeVeverse. So this would be no different. You just pay for it as a drop on the platform, and then they can use it as a full structure inside the VeVeverse. What am I saying? We have the Avengers Tower. You guys already know. Now there's also the potential for Memorabilia Auctions to provide access to virtual auctions where collectors can bid on rare and limited edition sports memorabilia. I'm talking signed jerseys, equipment like we were talking about before, personal items from famous athletes, and then the upcoming example dropping on VeVe, Parker's boxing gloves. Now, Parker's boxing gloves are just going to be a standard drop on the platform. In this case, I am talking more of like a one-of-one. So like VeVe's artwork category, where people can place a bid, and then the top bidder wins the piece of memorabilia. Now, ladies and gents, that's going to conclude today's episode. I hope you enjoyed. That was a little recap of the boxing sponsorship and event that took place, as well as the potential for other spaces in the sports category, and one of those spaces being esports. Now, Ramadan also started on the 10th of March, so I just want to extend my warmest wishes to anyone celebrating, to you and your families. I wish you guys the best over the course of this next month. I believe that ends on the 9th of April, so for anyone who is choosing to fast, stay strong, enjoy the big meals afterwards, and my thoughts and prayers go out to you guys. Again, a little reminder about the Cryptoys AMA happening on Friday, so if you guys are interested, tune in then. And then I may be having a little announcement coming up. I don't know, maybe, possibly. Stay tuned for more. But if you guys enjoy the content, make sure to like and subscribe. Comment down below you want to see in a future episode. And as for our next, I'll catch you then.